All right, so welcome to our Inspired series. We've been doing this class for many years now. We see you guys every month. Um, yeah, and so sorry, my dog's just like pulling things off the ledge. Yeah, so last few years we've been doing this with you guys. I think actually since COVID we've been doing this one, haven't we? Yeah, so love to see you guys every month with a new theme. Tonight we're doing basic and simple ingredients. And we're going to actually kick off with Terri. So Terri, over to you. If you'd like to introduce yourself and a quick intro to your Thermomix journey, and then away you go.
So my name's Terri. I am a consultant here in Albion Park in the Illawarra. Um, I've been a consultant for around 3 months now. I joined as a customer and then loved the product so much that I became a consultant. I've just signed as a junior team leader as well, so looking forward to that journey ahead. And this is my first live virtual cooking class, so bear with me. So today I'm going to be cooking scones, homemade scones in the TM7 Thermomix, some whipped cream to go with the scones, and some homemade strawberry jam. So I'm going to start off with the scones. So I found the recipe on Cookidoo here, and it gives me the option to cook 10, 15 or 20. So I'm going to do 10 today. So I'm going to go ahead and start that. Is that okay, Claire?
She's not talking, it's this lady there.
Where?
Yep, go for it.
Who?
Yeah, amazing.
This one here.
So I'm going to start with preheating my oven at around 200 to 220 degrees. My top tips are the hotter the oven and the colder the butter and the milk is going to give you that perfect rise. So get the oven going. Line your baking tray with some baking paper or a baking mat if you have one. And then I'm going to add my 250 grams of self-raising flour. $250 of that, and then my super cold butter from the fridge. So 75 grams of unsalted butter, as cold as you can and diced. So 75 grams of that. Let's take one out. $40 grams of caster sugar. So you'll notice I've got two TM7s. I'm making the scones in this one, and then this one is just sterilising my jam jars. And that is using the manual steaming mode at 20 minutes on speed 2. So 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1 pinch of sea salt. That's going to mix now for 5 seconds. And then we're going to add, again, super cold milk, 130 grams of that, 130, and that's going to knead that for 20 seconds. And remember, guys, when it's kneading, it needs you. So always stay close to your TM7 when it's in that kneading function, because it does tend to bounce around a little bit, although this isn't too much of a workout for the TM7. So 2 minutes kneading in the Thermomix, remember, is like 30 minutes by hand. So that's amazing. So that's finished kneading now. So it asks us to tip out onto a lightly floured surface, which I've already done here. I have pre-floured my roller. And I'm going to use our little trick with the spatula, which is not here. So I'm going to use my hand. Sorry, guys. So I'm just tipping that all out. So you don't want it too sticky, and you don't want to play around with the dough too much. We don't want to be kneading it at all. we're just going to lose the rise in the scones if we do that. So I'm just going to bring the dough together into a ball.
Terri, just one sec. So, Megs, what view do they need to be able to see? If you're on a phone, you might need to swipe across. We've actually got all three of our screens spotlighted. So depending on what screen you've selected to see, you should be able to see all three of us at once.
So that's into a ball now. And then I'm going to roll it out with my floured roller into around 2 to 3 centimeters thick. And then what I've also done, which is another tip because I've made these a lot being English, is I have pre-floured my cookie cutter, which is a 6 centimeter cutter. So that means now that I have rolled out the pastry to 2 to 3 centimeters, I'm going to use the cutter. Now you must avoid twisting because that's going to again not help your scones to rise. So we're just going to push down, pull out, and then just pop to the side. So 2 to 3 centimeters thick. Now this is going to make around 10. So I'll just push 10 of those out. What are we on? We are on 5, 6. And then when you need to, just form another ball, roll again. We've got 6 there, so we just need another 4. So make sure they're nice and thick so they rise nicely. So that is made a little bit more than 10. We've got 11, I think, in total. That's fine. Okay, so when we're preparing for the oven, obviously the oven's going to be really hot. We're going to get our tray, which you can either use baking paper. Here I've got a Thermomix baking mat, which is oven proof. Now I'm going to pop the scones onto the tray. Now my other next top tip is to place them very close together. The closer you place them, they're going to rise higher and they're going to stay softer. So I'm going to pop all of those on the tray. And then we're going to brush with some cold milk. So super cold milk again. We're going to brush just the tops of the scones, but try not to avoid letting it run down the sides of the scones. So we've got the milk going on the top, and then I'm going to pop them in the oven for around 12 minutes. And this milk on top will just give it that shiny glaze that you would see in a typical bakery. So I've got mine there, and they're going to go in the oven now for 12 minutes. Amazing. Did you want me to crack on with the jam?
Are you making the jam live tonight?
Yeah.
Yep,
It takes
awesome.
12 minutes.
Let's do it.
Okay. So
How many bowls do you have, Terri?
I have 2 Thermomixes and 3 bowls. So yeah, we've got a big house and we use it a lot. So that's the jars sterilized there in the Vroma. So you can use the Vroma for baby bottles. The reason we do it for the jam is to make sure that it's super hot, but also super sterile. So that when that jam's going in, we're not shocking the temperature too much. So the jam I'm going to make tonight, but I have already made some earlier today. So I'll use that tonight to show you what it's set. So there are a few recipes on Cookidoo. I'm using the strawberry and raspberry jam recipe today just because it cooks in the least amount of time and it's just a small portion. So I'm using some fresh strawberries and some frozen fruit that I have thawed out. So you can use a mixture just as long as they are thawed out to room temperature. So it's asking for 300 grams of berries. So I'm going to pop the berries in. And then 200 grams of sugar. And 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. So this asks to place the Varoma dish without the lid into position, which just means we're just going to pop the Varoma on the top there without the lid on so that the air can come out whilst it's cooking. So that's 12 minutes for the scones and 12 minutes for the jam, Claire. So I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Terri. All right, well, while Terry's jam cooks, I'm going to show you guys a couple of things. We're going to do some brown sugar. I'm also going to do some golden syrup that will take some time. So I'm going to get that started and then finish that later. So the first thing I need is brown sugar. I've chosen the dark brown sugar recipe from Cookidoo, and I just want to introduce myself. So those of you who don't know me, my name's Claire. I live in Canberra, and I've been doing Thermomix for about 14 years. And I initially started out because I didn't have a Thermomix and I couldn't afford it. And so I just had to have it. There was no chance that I wasn't going to get one straight away. So I became a consultant to earn one. I stuck around. I love the community. I love the flexibility. Most of my friends are now in Thermomix world. And it's just a beautiful place to be. So if you want some positivity in your life, you might like to consider coming on board and joining us. All right, so dark brown sugar, it's very, very basic. So, we're doing simple ingredients tonight. So I have some sugar. I like to use, if I'm going to use sugar, I'll use raw sugar just to be a little bit less refined. So 225 grams of that one. And then I've got some molasses. Now, molasses actually does come from sugarcane anyway. I'm just putting it back in to create my brown sugar. So I love I don't know if you guys have ever tried molasses on its own, but it's got a really rich flavor, and you could definitely use it as a bit of a umami. So I put in 30 grams of molasses. There we go. That one just goes in, and I'm going to mix that 20 seconds speed 4. All right, so, and I love how you can, on the 6, you can do preview. I can't remember if you can do it on the DM5. And on the 7, you can do preview as well. So I always preview my recipes just to see what's coming up and to see whether I need to get something else out of my cupboard. All right. And so you can see what we've got in there. It's just some beautiful raw sugar with some added molasses, and that's literally my brown sugar. I am going to give it a little bit of a mix just to get the extra molasses off the sides. And if you want to make a light brown sugar, you're just going to do a little bit less molasses. If you want a dark brown sugar, you're going to do a little bit more. So if we're talking money savings, right? A lot of people, I'm guessing that a lot of you guys already have Thermomixes. Type in the chat if you don't have a Thermomix, because we love having our, non-owners out there joining us just to see what we can do. But when you think about what a Thermomix, how valuable it is to you, aside from that it saves you time, helps you eat better, helps you shop better, saves the planet, all the things we love about it, you can save so much money with a Thermomix. Like, you think about the price of buying brown sugar in the supermarket as opposed to buying, your raw sugar. It's amazing. So there you go. I probably just saved myself like $5 just there, right there. All right, so I'm going to set that aside. And I'm going to get started with my golden syrup. So that's my brown sugar finished, nice and easy. And now my golden syrup. Again, this is another money saver. You pay a premium for a product that's already processed and put into a bottle. So this is also helping us avoid, where possible, buying extra things from the supermarket. So it says to put in 50 grams of brown sugar. So I'm just going to add some of that into here. And some cold water. Now just 2 teaspoons of cold water. A bit of a guess there. And that's actually going to cook away for 15 minutes. So while that cooks, I should have, done this on my other Thermomix. Just like Terri, I have my 2 on the bench. I am particularly, I find now I can't have just one Thermomix, because if I'm in the kitchen cooking, then I want to be able to do as much as I can in the time that I've got. So I'm just going to move my brown sugar over to this one, and I can skip to the step that we're at and just press play. Now, unlike Terri, I don't have 3 bowls, so I'm just going to have to transfer the brown sugar out into a bowl so I can use this one. And I'm going to be using some of this for my next dish as well. Now, my next dish is ginger cupcakes. So steamed ginger puddings. I'm going to show you guys how to use the nester, which is one of our favorite additions to the Varoma. The only fits in the TM7 one. However, you can use this in the oven. So if you've got a 6 or a 5 or even a 31, I'd still recommend you get one of these and use it to bake your muffins and things in the oven. Okay, so let's, if I want to exit out of that, I'm just going to go to the top and I'm going to go back to my week. So I went into my cooking center. Now I'm going to go back to my week and I'm going to select. So this recipe is actually called individual ginger puddings. It's got quite a few ratings so far for a very new recipe, and it's got over 4 stars. Okay, so it says grease my nester. I find you don't necessarily need to grease it. I'm going to skip the crystallized ginger part, and I'm also going to show you, tell you guys how I would do this dairy-free, gluten-free, refined sugar-free, which is how I would normally make it for myself. But I wanted to be able to show you guys how to use the golden syrup and the brown sugar, so I couldn't do that tonight. But I will do that once Megs takes over. So I'm skipping the crystallized ginger. I just, I don't have it, don't need it. Unsalted butter. Now I did make this butter myself. Megs is going to show you guys some butter, fantastic stuff tonight. So I did make my own butter as well, just to show you the ease of the ingredients and how to utilize them. So I've got that. Back to my brown sugar. So I've got 40 grams of my brown sugar. I've got some 60 grams of my golden syrup. Now it's the one I made earlier. I had to pre-make that because it takes about an hour to cook. So I've got some of my previous batch of golden syrup. And I'm going to cook that for 2 minutes. Now, if I was doing that gluten-free, this first part, if I was doing it refined sugar-free, and I am going to do this shortly once my Thermomix is free, I would get some dates and I'd chop them up before I do anything else. So I've got about 4 medjool dates there, probably up to about the same weight that my golden syrup and my brown sugar would have been. So that was about 100 grams. So just less than, depends on how sweet you want it. So I would have put those in initially, the very first step, and chop them up at about speed 8. So that becomes my sugar base. Then I would have added my butter, and I'm now doing the cook. So the only change, so if you wanted to do it completely dairy free, obviously you're not going to use the butter. I still use butter for baking because it's just so amazing. But you could use something like coconut oil. It just has a slightly different consistency. If you can tolerate ghee, then you can use ghee. It doesn't have the milk solids in it.
Just a question in the chat.
Yeah.
If you skip the crystallized ginger, do you sub for ginger powder?
That's a great question. Thank you, Jen. Look, I do add a little bit of extra ginger powder because we're about to add some powdered ginger in. I know Anna made these once and she added the same grams of crystallized ginger with ginger powder, and they were so gingery that we were all like burning throats after eating them. So I wouldn't recommend that substitution of powdered to crystallized. It was pretty funny. I love ginger flavored cake, so I was okay with the burning throat. But our dad was like, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" It was pretty fun. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to add in is some milk. Now, Megs is like, oh, I'll do the butter. I'm like, okay, can you do the cultured butter? And she's like, what? I'm like, okay, I'm just going to make it as well because I wanted Megs to make it because I've always wanted to make cultured butter. So I made the cultured butter, and this is the buttermilk left over from the cultured butter. And I'm going to use that instead of milk in my ginger cakes. So again, just utilizing, things that you're making from basic ingredients. I've also got an egg, and I've got some self-raising flour. I've got some ginger, bicarb, and sea salt. So this one has, instead of 2 teaspoons, about 2.5 teaspoons of dried ginger. And I'm going to mix that 30 seconds. Now, if I was doing again, the difference I would have done is I've got some coconut milk. So I'm going to use that instead of the buttermilk, which is the cow's milk. I've got some cassava flour. I love gluten-free baking with cassava flour for things like muffins and cakes. It's got a beautiful texture. It's awesome for like pancakes as well. And it's not as high starch as some of the gluten-free flours that you can buy. So I've got that with a little bit of baking powder to allow for the rise because it's got to be self-raising. All right, and just going to show you guys this. So here is my batter for my cupcakes, and here is my nester. And so all I'm going to do is fill each of these about 3/4 full. It's actually much easier using it with my right hand. And just use my spatula to help fill those. Awesome. All right, does someone else want to, because my golden syrup's still going, there's ages left. So Terri, I don't know if you are ready to come back or not.
So I'm just letting the scones rest for 5 minutes. There's 5 minutes left on the jam, and then you can come back to me and I'll whip up the cream, and then that's me done. So
awesome.
5
all right,
minutes.
let's move to Megs, and she can show us all her amazing fancy things tonight.
Look, that's quite the intro. I'm going to just walk people through what I have learnt when it comes to making butter. The first thing, this is cultured butter, and Claire's about to let us all know why we like cultured butter. And it's just what we've done in our preparation is I've had cream sitting that mixed with buttermilk today. And that's part of this recipe. So this is just the cultured butter recipe in Cookidoo. And the first step, so it says 12 hours prep time, but that's because we need basically 12 hours for that cream to be sitting with that buttermilk. So the first step is pop a bowl on, weigh it in, leave for 12 hours. Then we insert the butterfly whisk. So cultured butter really is that fancy butter that you get in super fancy restaurants, and you can actually make it yourself. So that's going to go in there. That looks pretty gross, everybody, but it'll all work out. And basically, for those who I haven't met, my name is Megs, and I'm a Thermomix consultant and team leader. And I've been doing I became a consultant about 5 years ago, coming up to 5 years, and I'm a terrible cook. And I was a terrible cook. I'm still a terrible cook. The difference is now I know my way around a Thermomix, and that is because I became a consultant and I kept putting myself in the way of learning things, which is why we're all here tonight, because we're learning things. Now I'm going to, it says whip, 3 minute speed 4, so popping that lid straight on. Prolong time by up to 1 minute if necessary. So the thing about this, I'm going to hit play, is that you have to listen. Oh, that just flashed a little bit. Hope you didn't see that. You just have to listen for a particular noise that happens when the cream is so whipped it turns to butter. I was probably about 8 years old and I accidentally made butter when I was trying to whip cream for my brother's birthday cake. And I've really never forgiven myself. And this whole process has terrified me since. It's just, I think it's changed now. So I'm going to pause and I'm just going to check, but I have no idea. So I'm actually just going to ask Claire. Claire, it sounded like something happened then.
Yeah. You'll hear it.
Yeah, it changed.
Yeah.
Claire told me this would happen. We went through this about 2 years ago and I never actually got to do the class. So this is like a long time coming. Just actually show you what's happened and you can see, can you see that, everyone? Yes. So now I can see there's the liquid there and then there's also the solids. So that's surprising, but it turns out it works. So I didn't actually do it for the whole 3 minutes. One thing that I learned today as well is I was looking at the recipe and it said MF. So I just standing in the supermarket, God bless Google, and that stands for milk fat. So then I was just picking up, because there's so many creams in the supermarket. I don't know about you, but I don't know which one to pick. My husband is lactose free, so I generally just get the lactose free one. So I don't usually buy cream like this. But I just checked the back and it said minimum 35% milk fat. So for this particular recipe, you want it between 30 to 40. So that was a perfect cream. The Norco one is also good, but it wasn't at the supermarket that I was at. So now we're going, oh, once it back on, okay. We're going to go next. Remove the butterfly whisk.
Can I just give a tip around the butter? So sometimes it'll start to change sound, but it might not be quite split enough yet. So if it looks, yours looks fine, Megs, but you can sort of tell by if you roll a spatula on the butter and it clumps together, it's set, it's ready.
I have no idea.
Yeah, like if it clumps together really easily, then it's fully separated. Should
I separate it for longer? Because it wasn't very long. All right. Look, here's the thing. You just trust the people that know more than you. So remove the butterfly whisk. Then it says, use the simmering basket, strain liquid from solids over a bowl, reserve buttermilk for later use. And that's something that I might just have to do over here.
So I use the reserved buttermilk sometimes to make scones, and you can actually make a buttermilk bread as well. So no wastage. And
the banana bread also calls for buttermilk. So sometimes I actually, oh wait, that goes the other way. I go the other way and I have to make my own buttermilk by adding lemon or vinegar.
Oh, nice.
What I think is interesting about this recipe is you need buttermilk to make the cultured butter. And I was like, what? So I had to make some, because I don't like buying buttermilk. It kind of has things added to it. But so I had some pure cream. I made the buttermilk to then mix the buttermilk with the cream, the other cream, to then sit it and do that little bit of culturing, which just means it has a little bit of, gut support, slightly, like it's mild, and it has a beautiful flavor as well. So if anyone has ever had Peppy Sayers or Papa Sayer butter, anyway, it's really good and very, very expensive. I
actually have some in the fridge, funnily.
Do you?
Yeah. So then it says some very cold water. I don't know what I'm doing, Claire. Is this just going straight in the bowl?
Yeah, and you've strained all the buttermilk out?
Yep.
Yep, and take the butterfly out.
Yep.
Yep, awesome. Then straight into the bowl.
There's a little teeny tiny bit of milk. Should I try and get that out?
It's up to you.
Oh, you're making me nervous.
The thing I love about Megs is
Meg,
she is willing to try anything. Like even though she claims that she can't cook, she still
cannot cook.
tries anything. And she's always successful.
Well, the thing about Cookidoo is the recipes have all been tested. Other people say they're amazing. So yeah, I find if you just do as you're told, Claire makes me very nervous when she just poured freehand in 2 teaspoons before. I cannot do things like that. Everything must be measured. So now I've got some water that's been in the freezer because we need it to be ice cold. So 700. And I'd just like to acknowledge all of our foremothers who did this step before we did in a much more difficult way. So my grandmother and my aunties. Now we're going to add butter solids. Okay, yep, well, we did that. I didn't know they were supposed to come out, so whoopsie daisy. Now we're going to mix at speed 4 for 10 seconds. Prolong by up to 5 seconds if necessary. Great. So this step is important because we basically have to rinse the milk off the butter. And when you're making the other butter, the not cultured one, it's important to rinse it probably twice, I think. See, this just looks weird, but we'll keep going. Use simmering baskets, strain liquids from solids a second time, and then press with spatula so that only butter remains. All right.
And just while Megs does that, I'm going to continue with my golden syrup. It just needs me to add boiling water, raw sugar, and a little round of lemon, just like that. So, and then I'm going to keep going. And then it needs heaps of time to cook. So, I've also got my muffins steaming away here. And I've just pulled it out from underneath my cupboard so that it doesn't warp the panels over time. Yeah, and that's what I love about the 6 with the glider board or the 5 with the glider board, or the 7 has its own built-in foot at the back.
So my scones are ready and my jam, and I'm ready to whip some cream unless Meg's is ready.
Look, I don't think this bit's very exciting. So I'm squeezing as much liquid out of the butter as possible and then form into desired shape, and it says C-tips. So my hands are going to get a bit messy. So I feel like we should watch your whipping cream will be much more exciting.
All right, well, we're happy to have you do it in front of us here, though, Megs, just so if people want to see that technique while Terri takes over. And remember what I said, squash and fold, squash and fold.
Oh, shit, I made a big mess. Excuse my language, everybody. There's water dripping out of this. Is gross. I don't even like touching chicken. I don't even like touching chicken wings. Oh my gosh.
I love to add a bit of salt to my butter, actually. I love salted butter.
Actually, that's a really good point. Megs, prior to this, actually, once you've squeezed all out, you can put it back in your Thermomix and whiz it up with some butter.
With some salt.
Oh, sorry,
Whiz your butter with some butter.
All right, Terri, over to you.
Okay, so the scones are finished. They've been resting for about 5 or 10 minutes. If you can see, we've got some good rise on those, actually. Look at those.
They look awesome.
Yeah, looking pretty good.
Hang on, Terri. What did you make?
A scone.
Is that really what they are? You've done so well.
Oh my
saying
goodness.
all night.
in England, there is a bit of a divide. Is it a scone or a scone? So you guys have a place here called scones, so therefore you call them scones. Is that right?
Other way around. We have a place
Ah,
called Scone. That's why we call them scones.
listen, it is what it is. So the jam has finished, so that's just 12 minutes. That's just the fruit, the lemon juice and the sugar in there, heated up. So I'm just going to pour that. I'm not going to pour it into the jars just yet, but I'm going to pour it into a bowl just to show you guys. So you have to do a test to make sure that it's set. The good thing with the Thermomix is it cooks it at the exact temperature that it needs to set. So it just means that it needs to just stay on the spoon, just so. So that's perfect. So I'll pop that in the glass jar in a moment. But I have got some that I made earlier, which is in here. And I actually give these to my hosts when I do demos. So that's just a nice little touch from me as a consultant. So now we're going to be making the whipped cream. So traditionally with a scone, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
You're doing so great.
You
Say
would have,
whatever you like, Terri.
you would use clotted cream, which is from Cornwall. So it would be Cornish clotted cream. Cornwall is a place in England. So we can make clotted cream in the Thermomix. It takes around 12 to 18 hours, and we use the manual mode for fermentation process. But today we're just going to whip this up in literally a few minutes. So if you do want that traditional English clotted cream, you can go ahead, just give yourself a whole 18 hours to do so. So the recipe says insert the butterfly whisk. I'm going to pop that in there. And next says place 200 to 600 grams of chilled pure cream. The higher the fat content, the thicker the cream is going to whip up. So I'm going to pop that in. I'm going to do 400 grams of that today because I've already done some earlier for my breakfast. And then that is telling us that it's going to whip it at speed 3 until desired consistency is achieved. Now, a little bit like the butter that Claire said, you can sort of hear when it's starting to finish the process. So for this one, you can pause it and obviously have a look and see if that cream is as thick as you want it to be, or you can just listen out. So I'm just going to press play. It normally takes around a minute. So I'm just going to cut a scone. And then there's also a divide in England where do we add jam then cream or cream then jam? I personally am team cream and jam, but
No, jam then cream.
Yeah, because how do you get the jam onto the cream?
well, it just sits on top. It is the messier version, I've realised. So what I normally do, especially when I'm doing my content for my Instagram and stuff, is I do one of each as to not annoy my followers. So I'm going to start with some jam on one. So this is one that I made earlier. So it's all set now. So that's going to be popped on there. And then I can hear now a minute, just like I said, that it's started to really slow down with that whipping. So there we go. We've got 1 minute there of perfect thick consistency cream. So that's nice and thick. So I can pop that on top of the scone.
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot of cream, guys. And then I'm going to do, like I said, one with cream and jam, and then one with jam and cream, so we don't annoy anybody. So there we go. That's my finished product. So homemade scone, homemade jam, homemade whipped cream. Easy. Easy, no additives, no preservatives, just whipped up, super easy, and minimal washing up because the Thermomix is going to wash itself. Thank you.
Amazing. You pulled that off beautifully, Terri. literally just like nailed that cream.
Well, I have made this many a times, and it's just like 1 minute, and I've got like that perfect cream. It blows my mind still.
Megs, do you want to talk us through? Thank you, Terri. You got to stay there because we're going to get a photo of our end results before we
Yeah,
wrap up. But
I won't eat it then.
yeah, Megs, tell us about your little beautiful wooden paddles.
Well, this
Oh,
is something that, oh, what have I done with it? A mix shop item. They also have butter, a special French butter container that you put your butter in and then turn it upside down. But these are little butter paddles. And so I thought, obviously, I'll need those in my life. But what I've done is, because I don't really like touching things with my hands, is I've made that nice little bar of butter
yeah,
or a stick
wow.
of butter. And it's got two sides. It's got a crinkle side. I don't know what you call that. Someone might know a name. And a flat side. So you can have it nice and flat. Or if I wanted to, I could then put some cool, cute lines on it. So that all worked out, everybody. That's very fancy, very expensive cultured butter for the cost of a container of cream. And now I did buy buttermilk today because I'm, as I said, too scared to do anything that's not in the recipe. They had cultured buttermilk, but I was already making cultured butter, so that was just a little bit too outside of my comfort zone. The next recipe that I'm making is one of my favorites, and it's such a cool recipe. It's very easy. I made it and took it to work the other day, and I still have colleagues telling me how delicious they were. So this is the parmesan shortbreads with fennel and chili. So I never would have made shortbread before becoming a consultant. That was definitely something that was too fancy and you could only buy at the supermarket or the special English shop that you would walk past. I did, however, make the Ted Lasso biscuits with the boss. Turns out it's shortbread. I made that recipe on Recipe Community. It was one of my first recipes I ever converted. So that was a super amazing skill to learn. So Parmesan shortbread with fennel chili. I'm going to get going. I have here 2 teaspoons of dried fennel seeds and a teaspoon of dried chili flakes. And what we're going to do now is just grind those up for 3 seconds on speed 8. If you want to make them smaller, you can make it just a little bit longer. But basically, oh my gosh. Ooh. Wow. So that's a combination of fennel and chili powder that's just gone right up my nostrils. So that is what I have done so far. So it's just chopping that up. And I'm just going to pop that aside because after we make our shortbread, then I will be just sprinkling that on each of the shortbreads. So my next step is our ever faithful parmesan. So chopping our parmesan, which if you haven't seen before, this is one of our favorite tricks as a consultant. So I'm just going to put that straight into the bowl. And one of my favorite things with the TM7 is the green zone. So I thought I was killing it before on my TM6. But if I get in a 10% variance, I'm still going to get it ticked off automatically. So now we're just going to make some noise.
Make this gluten-free? There's a question in the chat. By
Can you make
substituting.
regular? Yeah, I think so. Can you make regular shortbread gluten-free by using a gluten-free flour? Anyone know that answer? I'm pretty sure the key thing in shortbread is the butter, not the flour. So I'm pretty sure you could just use a substitute. Claire might know. We'll come back to Claire. I don't know if we have any newbies on tonight. Did anyone say that they were brand new? If you haven't already, that's what we just did to our block parmesan. Not sure. Did someone say not sure if it turns out as good? Who said that? Can you see that, Amy? Yes, you can use gluten-free flour. Awesome. Thanks, Jane. Rockstar. Would you like to come and join our team? So now we put in, so this is just regular plain flour. Oops, I missed the bowl. Then I've got some unsalted butter. Here's some I made earlier, literally. 100 grams, so let's see. This is a pretty fancy, everyone, what I'm doing right now. I wish you were here so you could have some of these delicious biscuits. What's super cool about these biscuits is that what you can actually do is when you roll up the sorry, I just got another chili flake reminder. There's some chilies in here, everyone. So what are we at, 76? My dog's looking at me very confused. 87. Oh, 98. Oh, gosh. Come on. Oh, 100. Woo! Love it. Dinged off. Then I have an amazing egg yolk. Straight in with that. And then 2 pinches of sea salt. Now, my husband and I, we have differing opinions on what a pinch is. But those are my pinches. So now we're going to pop the lid on. And for 10 seconds, speed 5. That's just going to mix that into a dough. And tip out onto a lightly floured surface. Now, I've actually got a bread mat here as well. I've got one of those new cool ones, which is pretty exciting, very fancy. One of the perks of being a consultant is that we get great incentives. So there's our dough. I'm just going to pop it on the bench now. Might move you down here. Sorry, everybody. Hope you don't get motion sickness. Ooh. And then obviously we have the trick where you can just wiggle your fingers on that, but actually the end of the spatula also gives you an opportunity. We call it the dough flicker. If you didn't know that, on the TM7, the end of the TM7 spatula is the dough flicker. So the next thing here is tip out into a lightly floured surface, lightly knead the dough for 30 seconds until smooth and then halve. So when I first made this, I was terrified, but I actually saw it being made in an in-person cooking class. And I was like, well, she made that look like I could do that. And that's what we hope that we're doing tonight, is making it look like that this is something that you think you could do. I've lost my spatula, but that's okay. Don't tell anyone. I've got a 6 spatula right here. So it says for 30 seconds, and then I'm going to cut it in half. So my way of cutting it in half is I'm going to line it up on the mat, and then I'm just going to cut it in half like that. So using a spatula means that you're not going to break your mat. Then we're going to shape each half into a long log with flat ends. So really, what I'm going to do now is just roll it like a sausage. And what's so cool about this particular recipe is it's then going to go into the fridge to chill. And then it's very easy because we're going to slice it. I don't know if we'll have time for that tonight. But basically, you make the log, and then if you pop it in the freezer, if you've anyone had guests pop in, you can just pop these out quickly, make them into discs, pop them in the oven. I'll go through the steps in just a second. So there's one slightly weird shaped sausage. And it's also quite therapeutic, I think. Some people colour, but actually rolling some dough. It's nice, tactile. So you make this sausage. So it says into a log, and you want it to be approximately 2.5 centimeters. This is probably a better one. I might have another go at that other one after the call's finished. So just tuck that in there. Make sure it's all rolled. So sometimes I kind of jimmy it back But the next step is that we're going to put cling wrap or reusable cloth over the logs, and then they're going to go in the fridge for 45 minutes. And then at the end of the time, we'll preheat the oven to 160, line our baking trays, and what we do is actually just cut it into 5 to 8 millimeter thick. So literally with a knife. Chunk, 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 chunk. So you just make them into little discs, pop them on the trays. Then you I've got a beaten egg here. So I'll brush with the beaten egg and then sprinkle. Here's my, where did you go? There's my fennel and chili that I blitzed. And then I just do a little bit of salt as well. They go in the oven, and then that after 15 to 20 minutes, you bring them out, and this is what they look like. So just beautiful, delicious, tasty. It's just nice sometimes having something savory when you're going out and you've got something and it's so quick and it's so easy. Plus the fact that you can make that log and just have it in the freezer. And if anyone comes over, if you quickly need a morning tea idea at work, you've got something pretty fancy that people won't stop asking you questions about. Obviously, the answer is you too can make parmesan, chili, and fennel shortbreads in your very own Thermomix. So that's a wrap from me. Have you got more, Claire?
My golden syrup still has about 17 minutes, but I've already made, so I quickly ripped up the gluten-free, refined sugar-free, mostly dairy-free, I love butter, ginger muffins. So they're steaming away. These ones have already cooked. Steaming is so quick and the texture is just amazing. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but they're just really spongy and delicious. So these are the glutinous sugared ones, the first batch that I made, the actual recipe in Cookidoo. But you can see like the texture's amazing. They're just super soft and squishy. And very cakey. Like if you've never steamed cakes in your Varoma, definitely do it. It's awesome. If you don't have the nester, you can just use little silicone rounds, or you can use ramekins. Just don't use paper. They will disintegrate. And so I'm just going to stop my golden syrup early so you guys can see. So here is my golden syrup. You can see it's sort of like a thick sugar, yeah, syrupy stuff. So you take the lemon out and then I'll just put that into my sterilized jars. So I'll put a little bit so we can get a finished product photo. And that's pretty much everything from me as well. So I've done the golden syrup, the brown sugar, I've got the ginger cakes here, and I used homemade butter as well. So I've got three basics that I used in this one dish. All right, I reckon that's a pretty good wrap. What do you guys reckon? So
When is our next cooking class?
Our next cooking class is gluten-free cooking, and we're doing that in August, and usually it's the third Thursday. Sometimes we have to change it. I don't have the date off the top of my head, but if you registered for this one, you can definitely find the the July class, because it's the
So
same.
every month we do this, and we do it for our customers because we love inspiring our customers, and it's so great to be part of a community where we're learning about how to best use our Thermomix and that we have this opportunity to inspire you. So it's our little gift to you.
All right, Amy, can you get a screenshot photo of us holding up our dishes? Are you good to do that?
Sorry, yes, I was just replying on the chat.
Oh, hang on.
Okay.
All right. You ready? You ready, Terri? Oh, amazing.
Hang on a sec.
Uh,
Yep, I've got you.
oh.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, thanks so much, everyone. If you are interested in hosting a demo, we're in a really exciting sales campaign at the moment in the world of Thermomix, and we just love getting out there and sharing the Thermomix. So if you are in a position to host a demo before the 28th of June, it will help your consultants out. We're actually on a mission to be out there on the global stage, put Australia back on the map for Thermomix. Some fierce competition out there with our European markets. And so the part you can play is host a demo with your consultant. It means the world to us. And share the Thermomix with your friends. So look forward to next month when we see you guys. And always the invite is there for you guys to come join our team. So just have a chat with your consultant. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.